Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I think we have a reasonable number of people. We didn't send out reminders, so it's quite understandable. So we are 17 here. Okay, no problem. Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Any part of the world where you're from. I'm speaking to you live and direct from Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Abisoye Falabi. I am the impromptu host for today's event. The actual hosts know themselves. They are currently on this call. And I think, let me unmute one of them's mic. Okay, I've requested. Yes, I've requested one of them to unmute his mic. So good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to have everyone here. It's such a pleasure that we could have a number of people turn out for an event like this, looking from the fact that a number of things, should I say, I don't think we really did publicity or thereabout. We just put it on Twitter and the likes, and it's been good. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for this call, for this event, as it promises to be very impactful. I know a number of us might have been wondering, .net, getting started. .net, it's a bit funny. It's only used in the enterprise. I would definitely like to get feedback, like just a random survey. How many people on this call currently code in .NET, be it C#, F#, or do anything related to .NET, be it ASP.NET Core, Xamarin, or the likes? You can all unmute. Everybody can unmute themselves. Just a response. How many people actually do .NET currently? That is, either you write C# or you do anything related to .NET.
I do .NET.
Okay, that's one person.
I also do .NET.
Oh, awesome. If you don't want to talk, you can just send your message to the chat. I would definitely see it. Just to let everybody know, this event is recorded for the purpose of being able to replay, but it will also be nice for you to stay on the call if you have questions, so you'll be able to ask your questions directly and get it answered. Oh, nice. I'm seeing a number of people saying they do .NET as well. So that's awesome. So
yeah, I do .NET also.
Okay, Steve, is that Steve Idowu?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, nice, awesome. So 5 people out of 23. So and I've excluded the speakers. So that is fine, and I've also excluded Vincent. So that's a very good, reasonable amount. So I want to believe every other person on this call doesn't really do .NET, if I'm correct. Chibuike, do you do .NET? Chibuike, Gabriel, Olawale Lawal, Olayemi, Philip, Prince, Victor.
Yes, I already replied. .NET also.
Oh, awesome. I just wanted it to be very interactive, so to just get a flow or a perspective to understand those we have on the call. So, wow, I remember you, Chibuike. I remember you well. You attended the Azure Center event, right?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Nice to have you here. So, thank you very much for being part of us today. So it's quite interesting to see that quite a number of people do .NET. So I wouldn't really want to bore us with a number of things about .NET, but I'm just going to explain to you. The .NET platform is a Microsoft platform which is open source, which allows you to code in either one language and then have it on multiple platforms. So take, for example, if you write in C#, you can write cross-platform applications. That is, applications that run on mobile, that run on web, that run on games, Xbox, and the likes. And .NET is pretty interesting. The .NET platform is pretty interesting. The language of choice is definitely C#, but you can, I know you can do a number of things with C++. I used to write C++ using MFC and the likes, DirectX and the likes way back like 8 years ago or thereabout. So .NET is pretty interesting. I also know that it's quite, it could be quite challenging or overwhelming to work on .NET. So which is why we have two awesome speakers here today. We have Mr. Oludayo Ali, and we also have Mr. Frank. So they will be touching a bit on .NET, what .NET is. There are a number of questions that we have looked out for in terms of we believing that these are the kind of questions or these are the kind of things people have in mind. There's also a section for Q&A, and Mr. Oludayo Ali is going to run us through Xamarin in like 15 minutes just to show us, just to run us through how you can build cross-platform mobile applications using Xamarin, using C#. So without further ado, Frank and Mr. Oludayo Ali, you might want to unmute your mic or probably switch on your camera if you're somewhere, just for us to have this conversation. Mr. Vincent as well, you are also expected to unmute your mic for us to have this conversation. Please, everybody, bear in mind that you can ask questions. There'll be a section for Q&A, though we started late. So I want to presume that we're starting this event just now and then go over to asking questions. And then from there, we will move over to the Q&A where people can ask their questions. If at any point in time during the conversation that you have a question, please, you can send your message directly to the chat. Just send your message directly to the chat, to everyone on the chat, so everybody will be able to see your questions, and I'll be able to pick those questions and then ask those questions during Q&A. Then after then, we move over to the Xamarin section. So take it or leave it. We would like to finish this event by 4:15. We like being prompt with time, though we started 15 minutes late. I think that's fair enough. So Mr. Frank, starting with you, can you just do a quick introduction of yourself? I don't want to really do an introduction about you, so I won't really talk too much about you. But just so you know, Frank is Chale from Ghana, from our neighboring country, Ghana. So over to you, Frank. You can just do a quick introduction of yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
My camera is on.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Now we can see you.
Okay. So my name is Frank Odoom, and I'm a software consultant. What I do every day is basically translate what clients want to do in terms of the software they want to build, either web or mobile, gather requirements, and come up with solutions for clients. So that's like my everyday thing. I work with an awesome team of developers, and we are all .NET developers. So what we focus on doing is building web and mobile applications using .NET. That's the only thing we use mostly. Yes, and also on top of it, I'm a Microsoft MVP for developer technologies, awarded just somewhere this year. Yes, so I do a lot of community engagement. If you follow me on Twitter, my handle is Mr. _ So basically, that's just a summary of
Awesome. So over to you, Mr. Oludayo Ali. I like the fact that you removed your glasses, so for us to see your real face.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Oludayo Ali. I'm a software developer. I work with .NET technologies. I've been using .NET for about 12, 15 years. And I currently work as a consultant, mostly for financial institutions. And I lead DevCross Technologies Limited. So I do more of, I actually do a lot of things. So I do more of mobile, but I also work with .NET Core, the API side. I do some gaming also. I just pick things here and there. You know how it goes. Anything your hand can touch, I just want to work with it. So basically, let me just say, I love technology, and anything I can find my hands on, just try to play around with it.
Yeah. So just to ask a personal question, what part of it? What are you in Nigeria, Ghana?
Okay, currently I'm in Nigeria. I'm in Lagos, Nigeria.
Awesome, nice. So you haven't come to pay tax that you're currently in Lagos. So we'll definitely send you the invoice for you to pay the tax that you're in Lagos now. We'll see in camera to have that conversation.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So just to move into a couple of questions that we had previously created. So I would like to ask, I would like to start with you, Mr. Oludayo. If you were to describe .NET, how are you going to describe .NET? What is .NET? Like, what in this world is .NET, and why should I learn .NET? Sorry, sir, we can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. .NET is so powerful to the point that you can't really do justice if you want to describe it. So you just have to describe to the extent to which you can. .NET is a framework that allows you to build applications, and not just only, so .NET is a framework by Microsoft that allows you to build software solutions that run across platform. So you can have applications that run on Windows, that run on iOS, that run on Android, run on Apple TV, run on Apple Watch, Tinzel, just name it. So it's a cross-platform framework that allows you to build application that targets all these platforms. And the beauty of it is that you can use the same technology that you've learned, that's C#. Of course, you can also use F#. You can use, I think that at some point, you can also use some other languages to plug into .NET. So that is how powerful it is. But majorly, if you're a C# developer, you can just easily translate the same knowledge that you have, to build all these applications. So if you decide that you want to just focus on Android development, then you're good to go. If you want to build cross-platform applications, if you want to be on the web, if you want to be on mobile side, if you want to be on the TV side, if you want to, whatever platform you want to target, it's just readily available for you. And the beauty of it is that currently now the .NET framework is open source. So with that you have a lot of contributors, which also helps with the development of the framework itself, with how the framework evolves over time. So there's a strong community of developers and contributors around .NET that make it so powerful. And like I've also mentioned before, the fact that you can anything you can think of, you can actually just use .NET. If you're talking about gaming, for example, you have Unity and you can use C# with it. If you're talking of mobile applications, we have Xamarin Forms. If you're talking about web, we have the .NET ASP.NET Core platform. You just name it and you are good to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I'll move over to Frank. Why should I learn .NET? Just to add a few things to what Mr. Oludayo said, why on earth should I learn .NET? I'm a new developer. If I'm a new developer and I'm looking for a language or something to learn, why should I learn .NET?
Okay, so what I would say is I would encourage people to learn .NET because one is cross-platform, it's open source, and it targets many different platforms, right? So, for example, like the work we do here every day is just using one language, which is C#. We are able to build mobile apps, we're able to build web apps, we're able to build web APIs, right? And at the end of the day, with the mobile apps, you're able to build both iOS and Android. And that is not just all. The sweet part of it is we are able to share logic we're able to share logic between Android and iOS and even on the API level, right? Which means that if you are building a solution, let's say you want to build a mobile app, right, that has a web backend, right? You would definitely need an API, and you want to target both Android and iOS. When you choose platform like .NET, it becomes very straightforward to build because you're using the same language, you're using the same platform, and you're able to build across all these target devices. And at the end of the day, you are able to share your logic. So if the work that you have to do is reduced, so let's say if you are building an Android device and an iOS device, instead of always writing, if you are going the Java way or you are going the Swift way, it means you probably have to write some business rules for Swift and some business rules also for Android as well. But with .NET, you can have your shared logic between these two devices. So I encourage people to use .NET because one, it's cross-platform, right? It's open source as well. You can contribute if there's anything you feel you want to add to the platform, you are able to go to GitHub and do that as well. So .NET is very good because it's cross-platform, it's open source. You can share your logic amongst all the platforms that you want to. Then you can also target not only Windows, but you can target Mac and also other Linux-based operating systems as well. So we are open to so many what's it called? You're open to a variety of platforms if you use .NET. And another thing is that when you use .NET, you can do things like AI or machine learning. You can also build, as I spoke about earlier, your Android or your iOS. You can do your machine learning. You can target platforms like you can build cloud native applications. You can also, like, there are so many things you can do just with one language. So either you're using your C# or your F#, as the previous speaker said, or probably you're using VB.NET. It's interoperable. So you have all these three languages that you can use depending on which one you want. If you're a functional developer, you can go for the F#. If you are more into the regular OOP stuff, you can just go for either C# or VB.NET. So it's a win-win if you use .NET. So that's what I'll say for now.
Okay, thank you very much for doing justice to that. I think you've also covered what the benefits or advantages are for using .NET. So I think the next thing I want to move over to is from Frank. How did you start out as a .NET developer? Can you walk us through your journey? I would also still ask Mr. Oludayo this same question. Mr. Oludayo, for you, you would actually need to tell us more about how you were able to win some certain things, even from way back when you started doing .NET. So just to allow people to have more context to or more understanding to that conversation or that thing. So if I just want to ask, how did you start out as a .NET developer? And like a new .NET developer these days, they are usually overwhelmed with what exactly they are supposed to learn. Frank was talking about AI, machine learning. I think I've also heard some people talk about augmented reality or things of that nature, and also talking about blockchain, Ethereum, Cosmos DB, and all these kind of things. I'm using cloud and all the likes, Xamarin. So to a new person who is coming to .NET, there are numerous things that they might see and they might actually get confused when they are installing Visual Studio. I would like you to like try to like touch a bit on how you started out as a .NET developer and how were you able to navigate in the .NET environment. Let's start with you, Mr. Frank.
Okay, for that, what I would want to share is, first of all, I've always had interest for computers. Like I've always had interest for computers. So I have quite an interesting journey, even though I didn't start as a developer. Those who know me, I actually started, I'm actually a trained investment banker, right? But along the line, I had to switch to software development because I just wanted to find a way by which I could, solve business problems using software, right? So coming from a business background, I know everything that has to do with business, whatever it is. Now, my interest was how do I solve business problems with software? So if somebody is running a business and a person is having challenges in, let's say, managing their stock, okay, so how do I solve that problem? Because I already understand the business side of it. Now I want to be able to solve that problem using a software. So based on that, I decided to get into software development because the only way I could solve those business problems is by not using only off-the-shelf software, but I sometimes have to build something that is tailor-made for that particular business. That is actually the space that I'm in. For my company, what we do is we build tailor-made solutions, like custom solutions. So what we do is we want to first understand your problem and see how best we can solve that problem using the .NET technology. So that's what actually got me into it. So I started with VB.NET because VB was very simple, back then, very easy to write, no curly braces and all that. So I started with VB.NET. Then I later on realized that there is something people are talking about C#. What is this C# thing? And I decided to learn C#, right? So I enrolled in, there's an institute in Ghana, a very reputable institute called Kofi Annan ICT Center of Excellence. So I enrolled there to actually, get more knowledge into this whole C# and .NET and software development. So I actually enrolled in a 6-month intensive course called, it was a diploma in business computing. That's what it was called, DBC, business computing. So in the business computing class, what we're taught, and before that, I was already doing VB.NET, so I knew my way around stuff. Just that I was doing things, probably not in the best way, right? But I was still coding, I'll write my SQL statements in strings and all that. But until when I got to Kofi Annan, I realized that no, there are better ways of doing things. So they took us through in DBC, which is the business computing class. They took us through software engineering, which was first. So software engineering taught us how to gather requirements, take somebody's requirements and gather, understand the requirements and translate that requirement into technical material, right? So they taught us how to translate all business requirements to things like flowcharts and activity diagrams and sequence diagrams and all that. So that was the first thing I did. That was the software engineering class. Then later we went to web technology, study web technology. So in web technology, we're taught HTML, CSS, JavaScript in web technology. So how to build, front ends and how to write JavaScript. Then from there, I think we did database concepts, right? So database concept class basically was to let us understand how we can store information in a database. And back then, we only focused on relational databases, even though now we have more relational databases. So I was taught how to actually store information in relational databases. So we did MS SQL, which is Microsoft SQL, and we also did Oracle, right? So I had knowledge in these two different database technologies. And from there, we did C#, right? So we went straight into C#. So I was trying to, I wanted the C# class always come fast, but I realized that no, all these other courses were very important, you know, because from what I wanted to do as in build business applications, I need to first understand what users want, how to get the users what exactly they want and all that. So it took quite a while. So somewhere around the fourth month of the class, that is when we started doing C Sharp. So we did C Sharp, and in C Sharp, it took us to desktop development, and we did a C Sharp syntax itself. Then from there, we did ASP.NET, web forms. Back in the days, it was web forms. So we did ASP.NET web forms. Then from ASP.NET web forms, I think that was it. And there was a project work. So for me, my journey was from a business perspective. I actually studied business admin at the university level. Then from there, I said, hey, I don't want to do business anymore. Outside of processing checks and all that. So let me just go into software and let me see how I can get my hands around. So that's how my journey has been. And after going through that institute for a while, I was very fortunate to also consult for them. So I used to go back to teach from the class. I used to teach mobile development, and I used to teach web development like half of my day for a certain period. Yeah. So that's how it's been for me. And since I left there, you know, I had a skill. I knew what I wanted to do. And the next thing for me was to probably just start a business or start a firm or start a consultancy. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So over to you, Mr. Oludayo Ali. I recall that you were going to you're going to tell us more about your journey from being a developer, then fast forward to a couple of things you had been able to do, or should I say, achieve from way back in terms of coding and all of that. I would also like to hear from you how you usually navigate in terms of when you get stuck, how you find solutions to issues or find solutions to problems. I kind of recall that there were several issues you encountered way back when you were about to do some certain things. And can you just walk us through a typical process, how you source for solutions, or how you resolve things or get to understand things you typically don't know?
All right, thank you. To summarize how I started as a developer, I think I'll just say that it was money. Okay, so this was that was something that actually I was very intrigued about when I look at the structure of having to have a licensed software. So I look at I've been interacting with softwares, back in the days, and a lot of softwares require that you pay particular license every year for you to be able to use, the likes of Microsoft Word, and the likes. And I just felt like if I can do something like this and I have a recurring revenue yearly, it's a good way to just chill and not really do anything, just flexing around. That was a thought then. So of course, I've been into graphics design and some other things. Then I've been into web design, not necessarily the development part of it, just the normal design. So that was what actually that was when I started researching how to develop applications. So I started with C++. I happen to be a self-taught developer, so I didn't attend any institute whatsoever. So I started with C++. It was very boring, kind of. I'm very sure everybody can relate if you're starting out as a developer and you're picking C++. It can be very daunting at a point. So I dropped that. I picked Java. Java was a bit interesting, but having a background in design, Java was really boring when it comes to GUI back in the days, and I was looking for something where I can really leverage my design skills, to build something awesome. I've been interacting with softwares. I see how beautiful those softwares are. So just in the bit to just searching, I came across C Sharp, and I saw something about WPF, that time, around 2005, 2006. And I just said, I think this is it. So I picked C Sharp, started learning, learn the UI design patterns and all. So that was how I actually started. It was in a bit to be able to develop applications that people can use and something that can, generate recurring revenue yearly. In the course of my journey, I have been able to, achieve some things. They are quite little, but just share them. As I was about graduating, I won a Imagine Cup competition for students. That was almost my final year, almost leaving the university at the time. And it just came about. So before that time, we actually applied for I think about 2 times before we won the last competition at the final year. The competition is really about developing softwares that people can use and solve real life problems. And having because I have the zeal to actually develop applications, I just feel like, well, let's put in for this competition and see where it goes.
Yeah, so just to interrupt you a bit, so I recall then that yes, you were back in school and all of that, and then can you spend like 2 minutes briefly to talk about the problem you were trying to solve and how you went about solving that problem? Because I know at that time the problem you were trying to solve was way bigger than something you've ever worked on before. So can you speak a bit about that?
Okay, so the solution we were trying to look emergencies.
Sorry, Mr. Dio. I think it's the stuff is freezing. Wow. I think we lost him there.
Even accessibility to the location we are in the
yeah. So sorry, Mr. Dio. I think it's the network is not really good. We lost you for a bit there. We didn't. I think the only thing we had is accessibility. We kind of lost you there.
Okay, I'll go right again. So there are different challenges. In the case of fire incident, for example, sometimes before the response, before you get the response, the damage is done already. In some cases, accessibility was a problem because if you look at the way the addresses are structured, it's really difficult to really locate different houses. We know how houses are built together without real urban planning. So we're looking at a way to use geolocation, to solve that particular issue, of having to know the exact address. For example, we know that in most developed countries, if you dial 911 and there's an emergency, the thing they're going to ask you is they're going to ask you about your address. So you give your address, they can locate you with your address. But in Nigeria, if you pick an address somewhere in Ibadan, somewhere around Molete or something, you can't actually really locate those places. So it's difficult to locate those places. So we look at using the geo coordinates to solve that issue. So we try to work with different emergency agencies, FRSC, work with the fire service, work with police, and all. It was kind of difficult because of some kind of bureaucracy and all. I remember that it took us about 2 months before we could get a letter approved, just to install a software on one of the FRSC server. So those are the kind of, we were trying to see a way to solve emergency situations, in Nigeria, such that we get swift responses, and so that you can save lives and you're able to save properties, as the case may be. So that was what the solution was about around that time. So
sorry for interrupting. So you mentioned that you were trying to solve issues relating to emergency issues, like first responder kind of thing. Can you go a bit into the technicalities, because I know that is something that might want to interest a few people on this call, because we want to go like specifics. So you had this problem statement. Where did you move from there? Okay, you have this problem statement given to you saying that you want to solve for X. Can you hear me? I think network issue.
Your smartphone, and you press, if you are in an emergency situation, you press a button and just select. So we have for that we have different issues. If you do a long press, for example, let's say you can't really identify what the issue is. Let's say you're already in a panic situation. You just do a long press, then that forwards the situation to all the emergency services, fire, police, all of them. And if you can identify the emergency situation and you can select, then it's going to be directed to the appropriate fire stations. And the way the appropriate emergency service, and the way it was done is it's going to send it to the nearest station. So if you are in let's say in Ikeja, Lagos, it's not going to send that report to a station in Lekki, for example. It's going to look for the nearest police station, look for the nearest fire station, and send that information to those people. So we're making use of GPS coordinate extracted from the smartphone device. You can take a picture if you have that time to take a picture of the current situation, which will also help in locating the exact location of the incident. And so we also have the web part of it. So we have the web part of it for general view, where you can track different emergencies at different locations around you. Then we also have another part that is running on the servers of all these agencies, fire stations, police station, and the likes. So the second part that we were not really able to really work on perfectly was to take care of phones that are not smartphones, just normal phones where you can dial a particular number. We're trying to do
feature
things
phones.
like feature phones. We're trying to do things like cell tower triangulations and all. But it was quite difficult because we needed the cooperation of all the telcos, to be able to give us that kind of access. So we were not able to get to that stage before the whole competition came to an end.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll move over back to Frank, and speaking directly to the same question, which is when you have a project at hand and you haven't worked on that kind of project before, where do you start from? So let's say a customer comes now to reach out to you, and they're asking you to help them build X and Y, which you maybe you haven't worked on it before, you don't have experience working on it. How do you start? Like, where do you go from there?
Okay, so from the way our business is, because we build bespoke stuff, we always meet different requirements, different needs of people, right? So the first thing is, when we get the requirements, we need to first of all find out if it's a feasible requirement, if it's something that we can achieve. So we do a lot of research, right? We do a lot of research, first of all, to see if technically we can handle it as an entity. That's the first thing. And if we have the resources available to embark on that project, that's also another thing we look at. before we even see, yes, this is possible or this is not possible. There's been an instance where people have requested for certain applications that we couldn't build. One, because it's either not feasible or we don't have the resources to, or two, it's not ethical, right? So for us, it's not just about receiving requests and just carrying them out. We also look at how ethical is whatever business or whatever that you want to build. Okay, we've had people come up with things that we felt probably didn't meet certain, because as a software engineer, one thing you need to know is whatever you are building, you should think about the social effects, the economic effects, etc. Right? So that's also another thing we look at. So if you want us to build something that does not have certain social values, we don't engage in that. And there's also been a requirement whereby someone wanted to build a software and he wanted the software to be able to sort of voice out. So he wanted to sell the solution to the like churches, right? So he wanted to be able to type in, let's say, a message or type in something or give a script and let it sound like a particular man of God, right? And certain things we look at and we're like, no, this we cannot probably engage in. Right? So that's the first thing. Then secondly, we look at thirdly, we look at research. So there are certain things that are technically feasible, but we haven't done before. An example, just like my brother was talking about, we've built a mobile app for a courier hailing service, right? So if you want to move a package from A to B, you just use the app, you just go in, you put in, calculate the cost based on the distance, and at the end of the day, you get your package delivered to you, right? And before we embarked on this project, we hadn't done anything with, this was a long time ago, we hadn't done anything with Google Maps or the Google Maps API or the geolocation services as at that time. But it is technically feasible because as a developer, all you need to do is just go into whoever owns the technology, read their documentation and look at their APIs. Then you can tell whether you can achieve this or not. So for that one, all we had to do was just go into the developer API, learn it and understand it, and just apply it. So there are certain things that we get that are technically feasible, but we have not done before. All we need to do is just, like currently we are working on something that has to do with video conferencing, right? We had to build a platform for a client in the US, which had to do with video conferencing. We hadn't done anything with video conferencing before, but the developers or the owners of the technologies have their documentation there. So as engineers, all we need to do is just go and look at it. Is this something we can put together? If yes, we can put together. Then we tell the client, okay, we have a solution or we can build this solution. Then we first of all come up with a prototype. The finessing of the whole thing is coming up with a prototype is for you also to try out that new thing, whether you can actually do it or not. So when you get the prototype working out, you're happy, you're like, wow, okay, we can really achieve this. Then you move on to your next thing, your next discussion with the client. So that's how we.
Yeah. So just to interrupt you a bit about that. So you spoke from a perspective of being a consultant, and I know a number of people on this call aren't consultants. So I'm just going to try to help rephrase that in terms of giving an appropriate answer that will definitely be something that they like. So from what you said and what Mr. Oludayo Ali said is, whenever you get a request or whenever you get a request to build something, first of all, you need to sit back, look at it, and properly analyze it to know if it's technically visible. So first of all, you started with being ethical, that if it is something that is ethically okay, then you moved over to being technically visible. So take, for example, if I was working in an organization and my boss comes over to meet me and say they want an application that will be able to wake them up in the morning and also put food on their table, that is, make oatmeal for them, and also put them in the car and bring them to the office. Technically, I would need the cooperation of whoever is going to be using the application. right? But if they are still insisting that the solution or the product that one needs to build needs to be the major actor in it, that is technically not visible, if I get you correctly. Then from there, you moved over to looking at it that, okay, this is technically possible. What are the required components or plugins or third-party tools that I need to use? So first of all, is there an available solution in the market or something I can integrate with that would help make my work easier? I know a couple of developers sometimes get into the habit of saying they want to build something all by themselves and not really consider using third-party tools or thereabout. So from what you said, after it's technically visible, then you look at what are the components that are going to be involved, what are the moving parts. This application is going to be triggering emails on a regular basis. What kind of emails? They are transactional emails. Do I want to track those emails? Yes. So that means I need to use a third-party tool that helps delivers emails. And then you mentioned something about building something for a courier service. So in that instance, the courier service, I know there is movement associated with it. There is a thing of pickup and drop-off location. So I'll be thinking of GPS. I'll be thinking of getting coordinates. And then thinking of, in terms of my thought process, looking at it that, okay, I need to do some calculations. That is, if I'm picking up an item from point A and I'm going to drop it at point B, there needs to be a calculation in between. That is the business logic to understand how much money is a business going to make from this, right? Then from there, we are now thinking of, okay, how is this going to all come together? But so I feel with that, we've been able to like just sum up what is required to do when someone receives a request to build something in an organization, be it as an employee or as a consultant. So that will take us to our next question, which is, how do you ensure that other working with you on a project don't go crazy? So what I'm trying to say is, do you actually prioritize code documentation when you are still trying to have the application work, or you look into code documentation after you have a MVP, that is minimum viable product, that is the application working to a reasonable extent? I will start with Mr. Oludayo. So do you focus on code documentation first of all when you're still trying to put things together, or it's when you have something that is working?
Okay, so my approach is usually this. They have different levels of documentation, and if you want life to be easier for yourself, that is the first thing. Even before talking about others, you have to look at documenting your code. Even when you are still trying to make things work, one funny thing is that sometimes even the code that you wrote yourself, you go back to the same line and you're thinking, what's the rationale behind this line of code? You're taking time to just think. But if you have a line, just saying that, sometimes we even do funny thing, do not touch or something, or don't change this particular thing, because especially sometimes when you're dealing with third-party, APIs and all. So it's always good that you document your code as much as possible. That will make life easier for yourself in particular. In fact, you will thank yourself later on.
So just to interrupt, you are saying that ideally, even code documentation initially is even for your own self, to save your own self from stress.
Yes, to save yourself from unnecessary headache later on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you start with that. So that's the first level of documentation. Now, when you now have the app working, so there are a lot of things you want to remove. You want to make it cleaner now. You want to refine the comments and all the documentations that you've written as pertaining to that piece of code. So I followed that pattern. I have like 2 levels. First, even when I'm still trying to sort things out, put different comments here and there, different piece of text in different places, just to guide me next time when I'm approaching that same code. So with that, if you have that practice for yourself already, it will be easier for another developer to take your code and work with. And let me just say this: if you're going to work in a team, which I believe that is what you will definitely do, if you're not a solo developer, you just have to document your code. Because even without that, you have your colleague coming back to you to ask you questions about what is this about, what is this line, and you are wasting you are wasting time that's supposed to be productive doing something else. So good practice, best practice, always document your code for yourself and for others.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for that. I was just looking at the time and I noticed that we're almost behind schedule. So just one more question. I think I will direct this at Mr. Frank. So one more question, which is around. So given that you're onboarded on a project, which I believe you've experienced before, and you're onboarded on an existing project, you didn't have prior knowledge about it or understanding or how to even navigate the project, and you know this kind of projects, you're working with limited time. And the application is even working, it's an existing application, and it has lots of dependencies, and it's one of the core business application, and you were onboarded or requested to come in to add additional features or just maybe revamp it. How do you go about this, right? How do you go about achieving the goal of building this new feature or revamping the product with limited time? How do you go about it? How do you navigate it?
Yeah, I think I would use probably two experiences to quickly share that. Usually, as a developer, right, we shouldn't always think that we are always going to start building an application by ourselves from scratch. So as the previous speaker said, you definitely be working in teams. That is one. So you always be touching a code base that probably contains some code you didn't write. Okay, so the first way to build yourself, right, to be able to understand code you didn't write, is first of all by looking at other people's code. So probably you are working on a project, and the project has, let's say, 5 people working on it. You are working on just one part of the project, right? Involve yourself in the other part of the code base just to train yourself. Okay, what is this person trying to do? Just to understand what everybody is trying to do. Now, it's good you build that skill, because in the real world, what is going to happen is you can just have a project that has a code base and you need to build a feature. So that brings me to my example. I think 2 years ago, we had a project that was built in Ukraine, right? And the company or the consultant that financed that project had an opportunity here in my country, which is Ghana. So he wanted to build a version of that application for like for Ghana, right? So for some reason, instead of him probably working with the Ukrainians or letting the Ukrainians build that feature, he had to get Xamarin developers here to sort of like add features to that. So they got in touch with us and we took the code base, and it was a whole lot of code, right? And we just had to be building features as soon as possible. So there are instances where it's difficult. I might say it's difficult when you don't have documentation. So just like the previous developer said, if you don't have documentation on the code, it's going to be a bit difficult because you need to take your time, step through the code. In this case, it was a mobile application, so you could probably just catch a breakpoint, step through the code and see how the application executes. So for me, that's a strategy I use. I first of all connected there was a mobile app, so I connected it to my phone in Visual Studio. Then I tried to go through the app step by step to see how the code executes. Because they say they want a feature here, they want you to change this, change that. But you realize that the way this code has been written is it has so many dependencies, right? So it's not straightforward. This guy calls this guy, calls this guy, calls that guy, calls that guy. So you need to actually step through or use your debugging tools. So another thing that comes into mind is that you should be a very good debugger if you want to understand existing code, because you need to step through the code, understand every line and know what it does, right? Then you know that, okay, probably this is what this does. If I click this button, this method is called. And when this method is called, you step through the method and see what actually is happening. It might take you some time to do if it is something that you need to, like in my case, they just gave me the source code. I didn't have, like, let's say about 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month to study it. I had just some few days to look at it and change it, modify it for this market and add certain features to it. So it becomes very difficult if you don't have documentation. But if you build yourself to understand code, people always write, right? If you're in a team, people write their code. Just look at it and understand it. If probably there's a way they can make it better, you can suggest it to them. That will also build you up. And sometimes you can also build yourself up by taking open source projects. When you go on GitHub and you find an open source project that's interesting, you can just pull it down. You didn't write that code. You can go in and understand what everything does. Obviously, you want to contribute to it. You can't contribute if you don't understand the code. So I'll say for a developer, it is a very key, how shall I say, once you understand the syntax, right, it's just like language. If you understand English and somebody writes an essay, right, you will definitely be able to read it. So it's just like code, right? But just that code gets a little complex. But as an engineer, you should be able to, go around it. So in that instance, it was difficult because there was no documentation and the time was limited. But at the end of the day, we were able to achieve it, build the features they wanted. And this guy is like one of our top clients now. And now, secondly, there's another example we have whereby a client moved his code from previous developers to us, right? Now, what happened with that is that code has also been written. It's a code base that's written. And this is the case, the client, for some reason, it looks more like he also wants quick features built into this application, right? Because he also says, well, I have this contract and this old developer is not being able to execute it because they're having technical challenges. I heard about you guys. Please take it and just quickly do this for me. I have a demonstration, let's say in the next week or tomorrow. So over here, you can see that the time is very short. So if you don't have that quick debugging skill and your team doesn't really understand the syntax, you find it difficult to understand the code. But most importantly, every code should be documented, right? And every project, at the end of a project, there should be a software document that shows at least the schema design, how the database is designed, the architecture of the application, so that if any engineer picks it up, he can easily go through and see, oh, okay, these are all the functions in the app. These are your dependencies. You can have dependency tables. If there's a very good document, then it becomes very easy. So it's a ripple effect. If we don't document our code, it becomes difficult, or we don't document our projects, it becomes difficult for another engineer to work on it. So we first of all need to document our code. And secondly, we need to be able to build that mentality to be able to understand people's code. It's a way you can train yourself. You can start with open source projects. Go to GitHub, download someone's source code, Microsoft source code, try and look through. And if for the .NET developers that are here, you use ASP.NET, you use Xamarin. Has any of you tried to ever go to GitHub to pull down Xamarin Forms code or pull down ASP.NET framework and actually go in and see what is there? That's how you can train yourself to also understand code that is already existing. So it's challenging in some instances if you don't have time, but once you build a skill and there's enough time and documentation, you can always understand it. So that's what I would say for now.
Okay, thank you very much. So Mr. Oludayo Ali, just in few words, what can you add to this in terms of being onboarded on a project? Because I know the kind of environment where you work in is very interesting, the banks and the likes. You have one technical resource who is supposed to support you or provide API access and thereabout, and the person is working on 15 other projects. And there will be the same persons giving you timeline, telling you that you need to finish the project in a month, something that is supposed to take 3 months. And they will be bombarding you, telling you that, oh, Don't you have the person who is supposed to support you? Is it not sitting down here, or is it not someone you can directly see? So in just in few words, how do you navigate such environments where whoever is supposed to be your touch point or supposed to provide API access to you or provide guidance for you, they are overloaded, and you're working in an environment where security is always overemphasized. You either need to come on site to test out your code, and you're giving a very, I don't want to use the word unrealistic timeline, but you're giving a very close timeline. How do you do it? Do you start out a camp at the bank or at the customer site? Do you actually leave on at their office for the time being till you finish the project? Tell us, how do you actually navigate this?
Okay, it can actually be a very what was it called, funny situation. So I think one thing that is outside software development itself that you actually need people skill. You need to be able to relate to people and to be able to get exactly what you want. Because if without that, that's from my own experience. There are some people that they are supposed to give you that, but for one reason, just like I'm not available at this time, and you have pressing deadlines and all. So if you can relate with people well, you will be able to get what you need. But before that, before even asking questions, before asking for what you need, you have to first of all study the code. Know how those dependencies comes together, how they come together, how they all relate together. So understand how they have worked itself, the existing code base. That's actually the very first point of the very first thing that you have to do. So once you understand how all the pieces come together, it will be easier for you to have a list of the things that you need and find a way to get it. I know it can be very difficult. It sounds easier. It's easier said, but that is actually really what you need. Without that, you may find yourself in certain situations that is not comfortable. I remember there was a time I had to be at the head office of a bank at 2 a.m. Because of a particular thing. So it can be that crazy, and it's just because there is a piece that somebody is supposed to do, and the person just abandoned it and just decided to go home, and everything just started crashing, and everything came down. So but it was easier because at the end of the day, I was able to fix the issue because I already knew what the problem is, because I've taken time to understand all the pieces of the code. It's not something that, another thing I want to point out is it's not something that you can just brush through. You have to do it thorough. So if you're going to spend extra time, to really understand, that's the very first point of call, understanding the existing code. If you're lucky that the previous developer used a modern software pattern, that's good for you. You may inherit a code that does not follow any pattern. You just have to dig into it. There's no other way to it. You just have to dig into it and understand the pattern of that developer, how the application works. Because another issue is this: if you don't do that, most of these applications are already live, and if you touch one thing that you're not supposed to touch, then you take all the blame. They will tell you it was working before, and you're the one that just touched something, and you don't want to mess with financial institutions, because it's all money. So just very important, understand the code. Take time. It will give you some headaches. You will have some sleepless nights, maybe 2 or 3. But once you're able to take hold of that information, then you'll be good to go.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that. I think one common thing from what both of you said is going through the code is very, very important. Having a good understanding of how the code works helps out a lot in getting on top of projects or handling projects that you typically didn't build or things of that nature, which is very, 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 very important. I also feel a number of times people are always, they kind of miss it in terms of using available tools that can help them a lot. So to help them understand the code. I know that on Visual Studio, you have something called Code Lens. Code Lens is there, Code Map is there. Code Map for me is my own go-to tool, even though I haven't written production code in years, but I usually work with Code Map, Code Lens. Once I just get a new project or working on an existing production project or thereabout, I just open up Code Lens or Code Map just to have a good understanding of how things are, like a general overview. I would see all the DLLs that are calling each other, see a number of dependencies. I typically don't mind spending 30 minutes or even an entire day going through what I have on my Code Map, Code Lens, looking at how everything is connected together, looking from the start, from the initial starting of the application down to the exit or the termination. And I think Visual Studio these days has done a good job with references. So for every method or every class, you would see the number of references. That's the feature they bundled under Code Lens. So Code Map is different, Code Lens is different. So the Code Lens allows you to see the number of times a particular class or a method is being referenced. By the time you click on it, you can see all of the references and go through that. So for me, I just go through all of that one by one, step by step before I really run the code. So if, for example, if the project or the solution is something that is problematic and it's not starting, first of all, I look at dependencies. I check to see if it's running the required .NET framework. This particular thing about the required .NET framework is something I have personally experienced. I had someone call me all the way from an oil rig or thereabouts, and he had to beg me to help them debug. This was a few years ago, and they have been working on a particular solution for months, and it was time to deploy. And the only single problem they had was the .NET framework that was selected on that project. The developer was running the latest .NET framework at that point in time. And by the time it got on site, only God knows what happened. It was referencing another .NET framework. I think it was referencing 4, whereas it needed to be referencing 4.5 or 4.6. So the application wasn't really low. It wasn't even running at all. So you have some of these things. Visual Studio, which is the IDE that you use to write your code, or Visual Studio code, has some of these features which anybody can make use of. I think at this point in time, we need to draw a curtain to the section for us to discuss. I am going to go over to the Q&A. I'm also very cautious of time. We should be wrapping up by now. I don't know. I don't think Mr. Dyer will be able to do Xamarin today. Do you think you still have the energy to do Xamarin, or we should have a full event specifically for Xamarin, where we know that everybody on the call is ready to devour you for Xamarin? What do you have to say, sir?
Well, it's left to you. As long as I'm available that time, and if you think we can do a quick run through.
So we can do a quick run through. Then we can have a proper event where we have those who are interested in Xamarin come over for the event. So just to pick up some questions that are on the chat. First person, Abakam said, what are the entry barriers to the job market for a .NET developer? And then he also said, outside the financial industry, what is the long-term job prospect for a .NET developer in Nigeria, West Africa, since we have Mr. Frank? So I would want to just quickly answer that question. Barrier to entry for .NET developers that I know, the organizations that want to hire .NET developers would always want someone who has experience. And you can throw back and say that, okay, how do I gain experience if I'm not employed? Just as Frank said, you can build out pet projects, you can build out projects, you can build out solution and use .NET technologies and just host it on GitHub or just host it, do a normal hosting and host it. So whenever you're going for interviews or thereabout, you can always show them that this is your portfolio, this is what you built. And then moving on to your second question about financial industry. Yes, .NET is used specifically, or you have a larger percentage of financial industries using .NET, or they're more comfortable using .NET because they say it's more secured and it's more comfortable for them, and it's something that they already have existing solutions or existing products on. So yes, true, the prospect is there for financial services, financial industries, even startups are picking up .NET these days. At least I know a number of startups in Nigeria that are currently being built on .NET, that really rely on .NET for their APIs or even for their applications, and they're really doing good. So the number of organizations that are using .NET is really increasing because, should I say, coupled with the fact that .NET is now open source and you have .NET Core, which is cross-platform. You can put your .NET Core projects solution in a Linux server and have it running there, and everything it's working there. So it's quite interesting. I think I want to move over to let me move over to another question, which was directed at Mr. Oludayo. Please, Sir Oludayo, are there job opportunities for Xamarin developers in Nigeria? Because most recruiters normally seek for Flutter and Plotun developers. So Mr. Oludayo, that's for you.
Okay, so yes, there are opportunities for Xamarin developers in Nigeria. The reason why you see most recruiters requesting for Flutter is because they are.
I think we lost him there again due to network. Hello, Mr. Dio. Can you hear us?
With them.
Yeah, so sorry, Mr. Dio. Yeah, so sorry, Mr. Dio. We lost you a bit there. It froze for a while, so you might want to answer the question again. Sorry about that.
No problem. So I said that there are opportunities for Xamarin developers in Nigeria. The reason why you see most recruiters requesting for Flutter is because most of them are they are not selecting that technology for any particular reason. They're just selecting technology based on probably what they feel is common, and that's from my interaction with some of them. I've been able to convince some people to change the stack that they wanted to use after having some discussions around the solution architecture and hacks about the reason why they are actually asking for React Native or asking for Flutter. So I know there are quite a few. What you can do is there are platforms where jobs are being posted that you can join. I've seen quite. I usually see some with Dev Center. Sometimes ago when I'm still actively part of that community. So you may want to look at it and join. They post jobs and you see quite a number of Xamarin opportunities right there. If you even sometimes I even see that on LinkedIn, because probably based on my profile, I usually see some of these job suggestions that are Xamarin, and there are of course companies in Lagos, Nigeria that you can work with. So there are quite opportunities for Xamarin developers in Nigeria.
Okay, so Mr. James, don't be scared. If you want to learn Xamarin, you can learn Xamarin. There are companies that are recruiting in Nigeria for Xamarin. So I think we lost you a bit again due to network. I think Mr. Dio, are you there? Hello. I think we lost him again. Okay, So Mr. Feyitiolua was asking, is code commenting the same as documentation? Yes and no, depending on the level at which you're doing it. So commenting is just you commenting your code. Documentation, I think in Visual Studio, if you do a triple slash, a triple slash, you see the option for documentation that just pops out, allows you to give a proper description for the method, for the class, and all of that. It's a bit different from commenting. And also, how serious do I have to take the automated testing, unit testing, when looking at an existing code? So from my experience, it's a two-way thing. So if the project you are taking on has unit testing, unit testing, automated test or thereabout in it, you can take it serious. That's if and only if the solution itself passed all the tests and you are being told that they are very heavy in terms of doing unit testing before anything is pushed to live. I know a few banks, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Dio can confirm this. A few banks take unit testing serious, and nothing goes to live until it has passed all the tests. So a few number of banks that really value these things, they are available. So it's also a good thing, personally, if you are thinking of being very good at what you do. It's something you yourself just personally need to look into, unit testing and all of that, to help you a lot, because God knows, maybe if you're getting a remote job or you're trying to work at big organizations like InterSwitch and the likes, they are pretty heavy on unit testing. So it's a good skill for you to have. I think the last question that we have is it possible for you to create a mentorship group for interested folks here on C#, C.NET, and Xamarin, a mentorship that will last for 3 months, and your work will be to direct us on the learning part, study materials, projects to add to our portfolio, and maybe discuss how much it will cost per participant. I think it's something we can do. I think we're having that conversation. Vincent, are you there? I think Vincent, Sophie, we're having that conversation of recent. And I honestly feel at this point in time, it's something that is worth doing. I think we might want to take it step by step. We're starting with C#. Then for the part of Xamarin, we definitely have Mr. Oludayo Ali would help us with that. So I think it's a step-by-step thing. We would need to look into that because a number of people have been requesting for it. So we would definitely create a learning part for C# since it's the language of choice and all of that, the first-class language. And then move over to Xamarin and then other things, maybe Azure or things of that nature. But thank you very much for raising that. It's something that we'll definitely need to work on and get back to everybody on the steps. I feel that's all the questions we have that I received for now. So thank you for everyone. I'll be handing over to Mr. Dio. I think you have a slide, right? Okay. So I am handing over, making you the hosts. So for you to start your PPT. So once you start sharing, I would retrieve the host rights. So you can, I've made you the host now, so you'll be able to share. Awesome.
All right. Hello, everybody. Please, if at any point in time you cannot hear me, please just let me know so that I can take care of that. All right. I'll just quickly go through this, and I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, loud and clear.
All right. So I'll just quickly go through this, and in just a few minutes, then we are done. So this is the beginner's guide to Xamarin Forms. If you want to start out to use Xamarin Forms, what are the things that you need to do? what you need to set up, and all. I have just few slides, so don't be scared. The first question is what is Xamarin Forms? So Xamarin Forms is an open source platform that allows you to develop applications for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac OS, and other platforms. It is from Microsoft, and it's been maintained. It's been maintained by Microsoft and other contributors. So Microsoft, there's a Xamarin Forms team that actually maintain the code base. So that's just a brief introduction as to that. So why use Xamarin Forms? Now, Xamarin Forms gives you the ability to use native experience. So what do I mean by native experience? There are other frameworks out there that are just like a wrapper, around a web view. So they actually, it's just like developing a web application, and you just wrap it around something that is native. But what Xamarin Forms will do for you is all the controls that you're using, you're actually having the real native experience. It's not a web view that has any wrapper. So the same, if you want to go with the default experience on each platform, that is available. If you want to customize it to to a different look and feel, you have that also available. Then another reason why you want to use Xamarin Forms is a single technology stack, C#. If you know C# as of today and you want to go into mobile application development, then you want to consider using Xamarin Forms, because you can just basically import your knowledge into Xamarin Forms. Then the next one is shareable code. So with this shareable code, you can share your code among between all the platforms. So if you, for example, if you want to create let's say a single entry, a single text field, and you've declared that in your code, you don't need to declare for all the platforms. Just declare once, and the same code will translate into all other platforms. So you are writing it once, and you are targeting different platforms. So that is, and you can share up to 95% of your code. So you have that opportunity to just write at the shared level and write most of your logic, and use it across all the platforms. And with that, it's easy to maintain, because if you have your code base in one place, you can easily, if there's any need to update or need to do any bug fixes, it's easily maintainable. And of course, it's open source. With that, one good thing about open source is that if there's any feature that you feel is missing, don't be surprised that somebody's currently working on it, and you yourself can also decide to work on it, and push as a NuGet package that you can use. All right, so how do you get started? So this is where we do a kind of quick run through. So the first thing you want to do to get started is you want to go to visualstudio.com and download Visual Studio. You can download the community edition. This is a free edition. It's a free license edition, and you can use it as powerful as other edition of Visual Studio. So you download this. Once you have this downloaded, I'm not going to download this because I already have that, but download this first. Then you can launch the installer. So after launching the installer, you have something like this. This is what you'll be greeted with. I'm very sure you probably will be familiar with this if you're already a developer working with probably a web platform. And if not, if this is new to you, once you launch the installer, this is what you get. And here you can select different workloads that you want to work with. This is for ASP.NET. We have Azure, we have Python, we have different ones. So the one that is peculiar to the mobile development is this side. You come to desktop and mobile. You select this mobile development with .NET. And on the right, you can see that's going to install Xamarin, install the .NET Framework, C# and Visual Basic, IntelliCode. And you want to make sure that you have this selected, this optional. You want this selected, Android SDK. That is if you don't have Android SDK installed already, which I want to believe if you're starting out afresh, you don't have. So make sure that this is selected. And one thing I also want to note here is for this option, this workload is just only for iOS and Android. The bare bone of the mobile application. If you really want to now test on Windows, if you are really targeting Windows, you have to select this UWP, this Universal Windows Platform Development. You have to select this as part of your installation. If not, you will have to come back to install this. This is from experience. So once you have this installed, you click on install and you wait for the installer to complete. Once you have that installed, then the next thing is to launch Visual Studio. So this is Visual Studio. Let's normally you should see a start window like this. I'm going to collapse all this. So you'll be greeted with a window like this where you can create a new project. So you come down to this side, create new projects. Once you create a new project, it's going to request for a name of the project. It's going to request for a name of the project. You may not have anything on this part, so you want to search for mobile application, or you search for Xamarin. So if you search for mobile, from here you see mobile apps, Xamarin. Or if you decide to search for Xamarin, you will see mobile app in bracket Xamarin Form. So you want to select that. Because you have other ways of developing mobile applications. You can target a single platform. So let's say you want to target iOS application, iOS platform, and you want to use Xamarin, then you can select this option, for example. But the difference is that you will be working with just the iOS, framework as far as Xamarin Form is concerned. So you'll be using something called Xamarin iOS. So which tends towards working with you still be working using C#, but you are just working on the iOS version, and your UI is going to be how you normally define UI for iOS applications. So the same thing for Android. If you want to use for just target Android, then you have to use your normal XML to declare your UI, but you still write C# as the logic. But if you select Xamarin Forms, then you can use C# to declare your UI, and you can use XAML for your UI. So let's select this. I just had to explain that before leaving this place. We select mobile application. Let's just say Xamarin demo. Let's create this. So you'll be greeted with a pop-up here to identify the type of app that you want to build. I'm going to skip this for now until the time when we are probably having a real section for Xamarin Forms. But if you want to start now, you can select the blank templates right here, and on this side you can see that you have option of selecting the platforms that you want to develop for. So you can see Windows is not selected. If I want that, I can select this. If you are on, one thing I should also note here is that if you're using a Mac, there's Visual Studio for Mac. I think I did not show that. So on the download page, I just quickly want to go back. You have Visual Studio for Mac here. So if you're on a Mac, you have your own installer also. So if you're on a Mac, you can only develop for Android, iOS, Mac OS, and and things like that. You will not have access to this Windows option on the Mac window, Visual Studio for Mac. So in case you are wondering why you don't have that, currently it's not currently supported. If you want to develop for Windows, you need to have a Windows operating system running somewhere, probably on a VM or on a server somewhere, for you to be able to, or you have a physical device for you to be able to develop for this. So I'm going to create this project now. and just quickly explain how the skeleton of the marine forms. We're not really going into details, but we'll just show you what it's looked like. All right, so once your project is created, you have your project listed at the solution explorer here. You can see you have Xamarin demo. This is your shared project. The next one is, so I'm going to collapse this. This is your shared project. The next one is the Android project, followed by the iOS project, and then the Windows project here. So you have all the projects selected, all the projects right here. Now, if you most of your shared code will be at this on this shared project. For example, you have a main page here. So I'm going to open this main page. I'm double clicking this and see. So this is called XAML. If you're not familiar with Xamarin Form, this language you're seeing here is XAML. It's XML. It's actually called Extensible Application Markup Language. So it's a variant of XML that if you are familiar with Android development, where you use XML to define your UI, it's a variant of XML where you can declare your UI. What this is going to give us is something where we have just some text that's going to show on the screen. So what I want to quickly do is to run this application. Now, before I run this application, I want to note something. There's another step that you need to take before you run your application if this is your first time in Xamarin Forms. You have to go to your devices right here. I think device log. You have to go to your, not device log. Where is this thing? You need to go to devices somewhere here. Open Android SDK Manager. Yes. So you have to open the Android SDK Manager here and download. You have to download the. You already have the SDK downloaded, so or you can also download the emulator that you need. So I think these are the SDKs that I have. If I expand this, so you can see that I have Google Play Intel Atom System image downloaded and installed here. So you want to be sure that you have one of these two, either the 64 or the x86 version of this emulator. You want to have this installed. So once you have this installed, you'll be able to run your application on the emulator. If you have a physical device, then you can decide to use a physical device. I have a device currently here. So if I select the Android version, let's say I want to run this Android version, you can see that I have my Samsung A70 connected to my device. So I can actually run this project on my phone, a physical phone, and save this. All right, so the last thing I'm going to show you before we wrap this up is what this looks like. So you have this page, this is the main page, and it's going to show us some things on the screen. So if you are new or you are a seasoned developer, if you don't know this, just watch what I do. There's a way you can actually run multiple projects. So I want to be able to show you how it looks like on Windows and how it looks like on Android. I cannot run the iOS version currently because I don't have a Mac connected to my PC. So what I just did is to right click at the solution level, select properties. Then here, instead of selecting a single startup project, I want to select a multiple startup project. So I want my Android, I want to select start and also select the UWP and select start, then apply this. So you can see at the top here that multiple startup projects is selected. So if I click on start now, I think I have my device connected to the Android. That was the last thing. So what I'm going to do, let me stop this, let me cancel this. I want to use the emulator so that you can see. I'm going to select the Android, and make sure that the emulator is selected. So you can select your emulator here once you have it. So then I'm going back to the same thing I did before to reset my startup project to multiple projects. Start and start, apply. Then if I start this now, so you can see that I have the emulator trying to start, already starting. Then the UWP should also pick up now. So it is still running, so just wait a while for it to run. I believe the UWP should also start anytime soon. Being the first time is usually usually somehow slow if you are debugging the very first time. But after that, it's a little bit faster. So I think it's just doing, let me check the outputs. So it's just doing some checks, being the very first time, and also launching the emulator and the simulator for the Windows. So what I just want to show you is to see that we have just one page at our shared project level, which is called the main page, .xaml. And on that page, we have some text right here. So we want to see how it's going to look like on the Android and the UWP. So we are sharing the same UI across different platforms.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So, okay, so the UWP is also currently loading at the same time. Let's see. So we see we have for the UWP is already loaded, and also for the Android, you can see welcome to Xamarin Forms, welcome to Xamarin Forms. Start developing now. So you can see the same text that we have. This is, and the funny thing is UWP is running on a desktop. I can see how it's responding. If I expand this now, responds very well. So you have the same UI, across different platforms. So that is the power of. So if I let me see if I can do something now. So if I, instead of saying welcome to Xamarin Forms, I just want to change this on the fly. So welcome to I say DotnetLagos. So I'm going to save this. So you can see that I didn't have to change my I don't really have to change to stop my application for this to change on this side. For auth reload here, I think I needed to do some settings for the UWP. I don't usually develop UWP applications that much, but I know auth reload is also available here. So I think I just need to do some settings for it to also reflect the same thing. If I rerun this now, you should see the same thing, the same changes now running across platform. So that is the benefit of using Xamarin Forms. You are writing in a single place, and you are sharing across all the platforms. So if you have not started using Xamarin Forms, you may want to just quickly spend like 2 hours, do some of these installations and try your hands on this and see the magic of Xamarin Forms. This is just scratching the surface. Like Falab said, if we by the time we have a dedicated session for Xamarin Forms, you can see the beauty of Xamarin Forms. All right, so that is it. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to find me, these are the place where you can find me. And if you're interested in Xamarin Forms, you can go to this YouTube channel where I put all the Xamarin Forms tutorials that you may be interested in. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Oludayo Ali. We want to thank everybody for joining us for the event. We want to thank our speakers, Frank. Want to thank Frank. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us for this call. We want to thank Mr. Oludayo Ali for joining as well. So thank you very much for spending the time with us. We want to thank everybody for attending this event because you all had other options or other things you could have joined or done. But we thank you very much for joining. I don't know if anybody has questions, suggestions before we close in the next 3 minutes. Questions, suggestions before we call it a day. Anyone, please, you're free to ask any kind of question. Even if you feel the question is stupid or crazy, you're free to ask.
Okay, let me say.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. One person at a time. Yes, we can hear you.
My question is, is it the same C# code that we write in web applications like the .NET core that is written in Xamarin also?
Yes, definitely. Mr. Oludayo is even smiling. Yes, it's the same C# code. It's the same C# code that you write.
Okay, thank you so much. My question is, with regard to the first question I asked. So how do we start regarding the C# mentorship I talked about?
Yeah, so I promised to get back to everyone on that, but pending the time, if you check out YouTube, their YouTube, even Dara Ladapo has a YouTube channel where he did an introduction to C#. Even Vincent also has, Mr. Vincent, who is on this call, also has a channel where they covered introduction to C#. If you want to also try out something from Microsoft has something on Microsoft Learn, microsoftlearn.com. They have stuff relating to C#, anything you want to learn relating to the Microsoft technologies, it's there. So those are a good starting point. But regarding the mentorship and learning part, we would just work on that and then share with everyone, probably, hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Any other question? Anybody? Oluwadamilare?
Contribution.
Yes.
So for the resources, that's following up on what the guy was talking about, as in getting materials for next stuff. There's a site called .net, or when you type .net, it takes you to, it kindly forwards you to .net.microsoft.com. Now, when you go there, everything related to .NET is there. Everything you need to know, anything you need to learn on .NET is there. So the various technologies from web, mobile, desktop, microservices, game development, machine learning. I'm going to drop the link in the general chat. So
yeah, I just did.
You just did, okay, great. So it's a great place to start as a .NET developer, whether you are new or you are already even into .NET. There are a couple of new things there you might not probably be aware of, because now there's C#9 and all that. And so go to that site, and if you are new, there's a console there where you can learn the .NET and actually run it right there in the browser. So please visit that site. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other question before we call it a day? James, Gabriel, Maximum, Miguel, Itomu, Oluwadamilare, Oluwatosin, Philip, Prince, Richard, Samuel, Bernice, Sophie, Steve, Victor, Atoyebi, Victor Yebuchi, Vincent, any question, any contribution, any feedback? I'm intentionally calling everybody's names on.
I don't have any questions. I just want to appreciate Mr. Frank for coming to talk to us, and Mr. Oludayo too for making out the time. I would like to thank everyone that attended too. This should be something, this should be continuous. We should try to keep this up. The community.
Sorry, please, who is talking? Sorry, who is talking?
This is Vincent.
We can't see your video, Mr. Vincent. You were supposed to anchor this event.
Let me turn on my video. Okay.
Okay. So, you were supposed to anchor this event, sir.
Okay. I was working while listening in, but I would like us to continue with this event, get people interested, and we have people asking about Xamarin now. You don't know what someone would talk about that would trigger your interest or that you need to do. So I would like to encourage all of us, and if you have other .NET developers that you work with and are not aware of these communities, please pull them in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. Thank you very much. Any other contribution from anybody? Questions, observations, suggestions? Before we call it a day, everybody's just quiet. Sophie is quiet. Samuel is quiet. Richard is quiet. Are you guys did you guys attend Owambe? Are you guys at a function or something? Everybody's just quiet. You're just taking notes.
I really enjoyed today's program and I learned a lot.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's Samuel. Thank you very much. Any other person? Okay, some people are just sending messages on the general group. But I actually want to hear people's voices. I want to hear people's voices. Oluwa Damilare, Oluwa Tosin,
okay,
Mary, Philip.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for today's meeting. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I love hearing that.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead with your question, sir.
So how, for some of us, we are actually interested more in the cloud platform, Azure. I don't know if there's going to be maybe discussions around that.
Okay, so there is an Azure community. Fortunately, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had an event recently. I'm part of the guys that run that community, which is Azure. So I'm just posting the link to the community. I just posted it on the general. Oh, sorry, I posted it to someone privately. Let me make it general. So I'm just posting it. I just posted it now to the general group channel that is on this call Zoom. So I just posted it there. If you are interested, just as you said, just join that community. We had an event I think last 2 weekends. We'll definitely have another event by the special grace of God. We'll have an event this month, at least one event. We'll definitely have one event this month. The last time we had a walkthrough of Azure, getting started with Azure, we had Mr. Makinde. The video of that will be published. It's going to be republished shortly. But we have a very we have a community for Azure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So also to add, there is a WhatsApp group that we have for .NET. I am just posting it on the general group. If you're interested, you can just join. This is for .NET, DotnetLagos. I think it's called Next 1 Million .NET or thereabout. I think Mr. Vincent has forgotten to change the name or something. But we have something there that works for us. We have a WhatsApp group, which is the link I've posted. I posted it on the general chat area as well. If you want to join, you can join. A number of people ask questions. A number of people, we post updates about events there and all of that. And it's been good. So if you, so if you have any any questions, any contributions or thereabout, you can always put it there. And someone will definitely try to respond to you. I don't know if there's any other question, any other contributions from anybody before we call it a day. It's almost 5 p.m. So I think at the count of 5, if I don't hear anything, I think I'm free to end the call. I want to appreciate everyone once again for joining this call. We thank you so much for joining, for your time, for your effort, everything. We really appreciate. Until we come your way next time, please try as much as possible to stay safe, stay healthy, eat sufficient food, and try as much as possible not to get your hands into codes that you don't understand or you haven't properly gone through. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all our speakers and to everybody who attended. We really appreciate. Do have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.